98 FM's Dublin Talks. Call 6797 981.
And good morning from Adrian Kennedy. How are you this morning? Tuesday already. The 5th day of May 2020, and we are here until midday today. If you want to get involved in any of our conversations that we're having today, all you have to do is call us on 016797981 6797 You can also text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. And first off on the programme today, are you one of the thousands of Irish couples who were planning on getting married this year only to have to cancel, move or postpone the date because of COVID-19? How easy was this to do, to rebook bands, hotels and everything else, to cancel guests, to rearrange the church? How accommodating have companies been in dealing with rearranging your wedding? Or maybe it's been an absolute nightmare for you. And on a personal note, how has it affected you and your husband or wife-to-be having to call off your big day? You spend several years gearing up for it, all the plans in train, and everything was all set to go until March, and then bang, we got hit with this virus and all that has entailed. In a moment, I'm going to be talking to a woman who was due to get married on Friday, just gone, and she's had to put her wedding off for an entire year. And Joan was feeling fairly downbeat over the weekend, but a trip to her local Tesco changed all that. I'll be finding out in just a second what they did for her in Tesco. It was a really nice story. So I'd like to hear from you on 6797 981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. If you had a wedding planned for this year, what have you had to do? And tell me about the arrangements you've made and whatever. Maybe you've called it off forever, or maybe you've just put it on hold until perhaps next year. Call me right now on 6797 981. As I said, text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. So as I said, Joan was meant to be getting married on Friday. So she obviously didn't get married on Friday. And, well, let's find out what actually did happen. Joan joins me on the line. And by the way, once again, you can call us on 6797 981 if you've been affected by having to cancel your wedding. Joan, take me to Friday, just gone. And what happened on Friday? Oh,
so many things, so many nice things on a world that we live in right now where it can be so easy to see all the bad. Just in regards to, I went to our local shop in Kilbarrack, Tesco's, and thought I'd do something nice. I picked up a bottle of Prosecco, bottle of vodka and some crisps for me and himself to have a drink at least on the day. So when I went into the supermarket, I got to the checkout and I was talking to the girls. There just so happened to be 3 girls standing at the checkout that worked there. I don't know. They were fixing stuff or whatever. And I realised I'd forgot my card.
So no Prosecco, no vodka to celebrate.
Yeah.
So, but they weren't going to let you walk out empty-handed. What did the staff do?
Out of their own pocket. And just to add, can you imagine the embarrassment? So when you get to the checkout, the redness starts to appear on your face when you have no money to pay for it. So you already start to get a little bit nervous and like antsy at the checkout. So I'm flapping at this stage, oh, I've no card. And of course the girls just turn around out of their own pocket, I might add, and paid for my shopping and told me to go and enjoy the day that should have been in it and to have a drink.
Wasn't that very nice of them?
Oh my God, to say the straw that broke the camel's back, and there was a few tears while I stood there when they handed me my bottle of drink and said, no, go and enjoy your day. And in the flap of everything, I didn't even get the girls' names. So
okay, but this was in Tesco in Kilbarrack on Friday. As you said, it was supposed to be your wedding day, and when you got to the till, you'd obviously been talking to the girls about the fact that it was your due to be your wedding day.
Yes, they saw the bottle of Prosecco and were kind of looking, going, "Oh, what could you be celebrating at this time?" I presume. So it was kind of like, "Oh, it was supposed to be my wedding day," not in a, not in a bad way. It was just like, yeah, I'm doing something nice for the day that's in it. So they were like, oh. So, I shed a tear and just walked out of the shop in the initial shock of, wow, how kind can people be when you least expect it?
That was extraordinary. That really was. So well done to the staff in Tesco in Kilbarrack. You didn't get their names, but they'll know who they are. They'll know who they are. I'm
hoping everybody who lives around Kilbarrack who's listening this morning, if they're popping into the shop, maybe they might give a little shout out. In case some of the girls weren't listening or staff members didn't get a chance to listen this morning, they might acknowledge them when they go into the supermarket to say, I heard about your very kind gesture, because that would, I don't know how to thank them, because it changed my whole mood on the day.
That's lovely. That really is. Now, tell me about the wedding, Joan. Where was it to be?
It was to be in Sutton, and it was to be a barbecue wedding. So, not to say I was a little bit happy that it rained on Friday. Not to be mean to other people who wanted a dry day on Friday, but when it rained, I was like, oh, yes. Because, if it was a really, really sunny day, I would have been like, oh.
That could have been me, yeah.
That could have been me. Us Irish, we live like that.
So knowing from a few weeks ago that the wedding wasn't going to go ahead, how difficult has that been? And what, in terms of, I understand you're planning to have it on the same date next year.
In fairness, the same thing. Suppliers in Ireland, especially small businesses like Tango in town, which was our suit shop. I can understand the hotels now. I know now, looking at it, I can see hotels might find it very difficult as well. But at the start, when this first came about, and I cancelled, it was a good bit before this had fully blown into what it is. Do you know what I mean? I think it was week 2 of this, and I decided to cancel. But yeah, small businesses that suppliers who hairdressers, everybody was just like, no, your deposits that have been paid, just leave them where they are, and we'll just pick up this time next year. So just give us a shout just before. When this is all over, give us a shout. And then 6 to 8 weeks before your wedding, you just let us know. We'll come in, we'll refit you. I have not lost, bar one thing which was unavoidable. I have not lost one penny on my wedding. And it was a small deposit that I had paid to a photographer who is now busy for the same day next year. He tried everything to move it around, but he can't. He was already pre-booked from last year. But I have not lost 1 cent or incurred a cost in Ireland for cancelling a wedding.
That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant, because I know, and in fact, anybody else who's due to get married, I'd love to hear your stories. You can call us on 6797 981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Because it with all the work that goes into preparing for a wedding, and to have to pull the plug on it, has to have been very disappointing.
It is, but in the hindsight of it all, when I cancelled my one, it was just when everything started to lock down. So a lot of people were already being told they couldn't come. Like, I have family that lives in Australia and America and Spain. So it kind of was made a little bit easier in the sense that, well, my brothers and sisters weren't going to get to be there because they were already being told at this stage nobody is travelling, you know. So I think if, like what was said to me, I was saying, come on, we go over, just the two of us and the kids, and get married. And it was said to me, well, if that's how you wanted your wedding, that's how you would have booked it. So, fair point. So let's wait it out and make sure that next year, when we do get all our family and friends together, that is a whopper of a day, hopefully. And I feel I'll appreciate it more. It was just taken for granted, you know. Oh, I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do this. But now I feel different, that my day is going to be nicer and more special, because touch wood, we're coming on the other side of this, that all my fans and family members have made it through. You know, so many people have been so sick and not made it to the other side of this. So fingers crossed, I'm one of the lucky families who wouldn't have lost many.
All right, so we're looking at what date next year?
The 30th of April.
30th of April next year. All right, so you've another year to plan an even better wedding for next year.
Spend more money I don't have.
I'm delighted to hear you being so optimistic and so upbeat, Joan, because we were speaking to somebody last week who's devastated over the wedding having to be cancelled or postponed. But you're very upbeat, and I'm delighted to hear that you didn't lose any money and that you're looking forward to the 30th of April next year.
Yeah, and I'm hoping for all the other brides out there. I know how hard it must have been. I really do. It wasn't a decision made like you spent. Me and Paul are 14 years together. You know, it took us to even get to just the day, and then we had to cancel it. But I do hope for all the rest of the brides and grooms out there that the cancellation and the transition period was as easy as mine, because I think that's why I'm so lax, or, you know, didn't mind it, because it really didn't cost me anything, and how kind and generous people were in the, you know, at the end of the day, it didn't affect me. It was just like, no, this is what needs to be done, and people just let me do it, and it was really amazing. That's
brilliant. And once again, well done to the staff at Tesco in Kilbarrack when Joan arrived at the till. Went to pay for her little bottle of Prosecco to celebrate what should have been her wedding day. She'd no card. And well done to them for paying for your shopping and whatever the other day. Really nice gesture. Joan, the very best of luck in planning for next year's wedding. And I look forward to the invite in the post.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. If there's one more thing, I just want to give, if I could, just very quickly, which would have been my mother-in-law at this stage, because we would have been married on Friday. She's celebrating her 70th birthday today. So I just want to wish her a very big happy 70th birthday.
And what's her name?
She'll kill me. Maureen Fallon.
Maureen, all right. Happy 70th birthday, Maureen. And look, I'm delighted with how optimistic and upbeat you are, Joan.
Thank
you. Some good will come out of all of this in the end.
Oh, definitely, definitely. That's all we have to look for. And like I said, we can see light at this stage. I think please God, there's no step backs for us all, and soon we'll be
starting to get our lives back to normal
again. And some sort of normality.
All right, Joan, I wish you the very best, and thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So, I'd like to hear from you if you've been affected having to cancel your wedding. Our telephone number is 6797 981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Now, Jay, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Jay?
Morning, Adrian. How are you?
Now, you were due to get married in Spain, is that right?
Yes, we were due to get married in Cabaret on the 8th of August.
On the 8th of August. So what has happened?
Due to the current pandemic that the whole world is in, we haven't had a choice but to cancel, because due to people that were elderly and stuff like that, it just wasn't safe enough for people to travel. You know, like my partner's mother-in-law is 86 this year, and we just didn't feel it was safe enough to go ahead with the wedding.
So have you postponed it or cancelled it altogether?
Yeah, no, we've postponed it till 2021.
Okay, so but you're putting it off for a year as well?
Yes, we are.
And do you plan doing the same thing in the same place?
Oh, yeah, we do. We've been onto the wedding planner and everything, and we've organised it with her over in Spain, and we've already received our date, which is the 12th of August next year.
The 12th of August next year. Very good. Okay, so as I was saying to Joan there a second ago, that gives you another year to plan and spend money that you don't have.
Another year to lose the weight that I wanted to lose for this year.
All right, okay. Very good. And were you... I mean, have you found yourself being very disappointed or just getting on with it, basically?
I think we were very disappointed. And, you know, I'd say the worst thing about it is, and what we really made the call on at the end of the day was, by now we should be looking forward to it.
Yeah.
You know, we should be getting excited. There was so much stag party was booked in Kilkenny. My partner had our hen party organised and stuff like that. And we should have been really looking forward to the build-up of it now, you know. And we were due, as I said last week when I was on, we were due to go over this week to meet the wedding planner just to finalise all the details and the whole lot. And we can't look forward to anything. So there was no point in going ahead and trying to... And even at that, like, holding out till August and then probably being hit with a bigger disappointment of being told closer to the date that we couldn't do it. So we just decided
in terms of family and friends, had they all booked their flights and all of that?
A lot of them had, yeah. A lot of them had booked their flights and stuff like that. So we, in the end of the day, it was a hard call for us to do, but we do hope that, I know it's probably not a good thing to say, but we do hope that everyone gets their money back and we're not allowed to fly, so everyone can carry over their vouchers or whichever Ryanair.
Yeah, to go again next year.
To go again next year, yeah.
All right. Well, you also sound fairly upbeat about it. It is what it is.
You know, it is what it is. It's not our fault, as people said to us the other day. We weren't the ones that started this pandemic. You know, so at the end of the day, it's out of our hands. You know, and it came to the reason where even my stepdaughter is doing her leaving cert this year. If the leaving cert does go ahead. We would have had to fly her out on the Saturday morning and flying her back on the Sunday evening to finish her leaving cert. And that's not what you want to do either.
Absolutely not. No.
You know, you don't want to. You want everyone to be there.
All right, well, I'll keep my fingers and toes crossed that everything
no problem. I'll personally hand you the invitation myself when we get back to normal. Because you'll be judging our Oscars night in Navan Mountains.
Oh, very good. That's been put off for a year as well, is it?
Yeah, that's been put off, I think, for a year, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, we look forward to getting back doing that sort of work as well.
Yeah,
Jay,
exactly.
thanks very much indeed, and the best of luck to you.
Yeah.
Now, Jen, good morning.
Morning.
Unfortunately, things haven't been as good for you. You were due to get married in August.
Yep.
And where was the wedding to be?
It was in Kildare.
Right. And obviously, because of everything that's going on, you had to postpone it until next year as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, another year, but sure.
And in terms of the hotel and all of that, was it easy to get them to move the date to next year?
Well, basically, they had said to us, like, what date would you like? So we picked a date next year. We picked July 31st. Mm-hmm. And because we got a package deal, they actually contacted all the suppliers to make sure they were available on that date. So we were actually lucky that when she contacted all of them, they were available. So we've got everyone that we've wanted apart from hair and makeup, but sure.
Okay, so you've put it off then until the 31st of July next year.
Yeah.
Which I'm told is your 10th anniversary, is that right?
Yeah.
All right, so it'll be worth it. It'll be nicely timed.
I know, it's for the best, like, you know, it's a safer option to do anyway.
Yeah. Now, and we were talking about, in fact, we did a man on to us last week, and his partner was absolutely devastated over having to cancel or postpone the wedding. You seem much more pragmatic about it.
Well, it was the date we originally wanted this year, and we couldn't get that date this year, so kind of, I don't know, it worked out in a way, I suppose.
Okay, so 31st of July next year, your 10th anniversary, and in terms of you know, guests having booked rooms and all that, has that all been looked after?
Well, the hotel had said not for any of the guests to ring. They just said the rooms will automatically go over until next year, whoever is booked. And then they were just saying that the only reason why they should ring the hotel is if they can't make next year, like if they're cancelling a room just to free it up.
Oh, right, okay. But otherwise, it's just going to, all the rooms that were booked are just going to be transferred to next year. That's very good.
Yeah, it's very straightforward. It's just basically a new date, so...
Excellent. All right. Well, like we said already, it gives you another year to plan even more for your
exactly.
For your big
bigger
day.
And better.
All right. Great to talk to you, Jen. Thanks very much indeed.
Okay, bye.
And the very best of luck with everything. Like I said, another year to plan the big day. And for those of you who have also had to cancel your wedding, I think a lot of people are arguing that, you know, it's not the end of the world. You will be able to get married next year, fingers crossed and all that. All right, the very best of luck to you. Now, news just coming into us this very second. It is a big disappointment to announce that the Bray Air Show 2020, which was originally due to take place on the 25th and 26th of July, is cancelled. This is a statement on Bray Air Display's Facebook page. After very careful consideration, the unprecedented impact of the global COVID-19 pandemic has forced this decision in the interests of health and safety of spectators, participants and the organising team. We will focus our energies on creating a spectacular event for 2021 when we hope to celebrate happier, safer times. Well over 100,000 people would be expected to attend that event, or certainly have in the past, so you can see why that's had to be cancelled. Unfortunately, 25th and 26th of July, the Bray Air Display is now cancelled, and that's literally coming into us as we speak. Now, next on the programme, this is the front page of all of the most of the newspapers today. I want to find out how you feel about pubs being allowed to open perhaps a little bit earlier than planned, with very strict guidelines. I'm going to explain a proposal from the two publican organisations, the Vintners Federation of Ireland and the Licensed Vintners Federation, who are putting proposals to the government for how they see pubs being allowed to reopen with table service only, no people at the bar, no DJs, no live music, and a much more kind of a clinical environment. I'll explain exactly what they're proposing, and we'll be asking you after the break, will this entice you back to the pub? We're back in just a moment, don't go away.
The sound of the city, from Stoneybatter to Stepaside. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
Tuesday morning, good morning to you. Now, the conversation over the weekend has focused a lot on pubs. In fact, the front page of many of the newspapers today are proposals being put forward by the Vintners Federation of Ireland and the Licensed Vintners Federation. And here's what they're suggesting with regard to pubs and how they could be allowed to open a bit earlier. Their proposals include nobody being allowed to sit, stand or order at the bar. I don't know how that would work in a Wetherspoons, for example, because you have to go to the bar to order. But anyhow, the numbers on the premises will be confined to no more than 4 per every 10 square metres, and a maximum of 6 people will be permitted at any one table. There will be table service only. Customers will be expected to use hand sanitizer before entering the pub. Staff would be asked to maintain a safe distance from customers when taking orders and to wash their hands thoroughly every 30 minutes. There may be limits on how many can use toilets at any one time, and there will be no live music or DJs, and Gardaí or the HSE will have the power to close any business flouting the guidelines. That's a very different type of pub to the type of pub that we were used to up till the start of March. Does this sound like a good night out to you? Would you be happy to return to your local pub with these kind of conditions? Both the VFI and the LVI have put forward these measures, which they believe should allow them to open along with restaurants and cafes at the end of June rather than in August. But do you believe that this is workable, or could you be bothered going to a pub where there's no music, pretty much no gathering of groups, a much more clinical environment? Call me right now on 6797 981. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Anne-Marie would like to see pubs reopening.
Hi. I think pubs should open in a few weeks' time, especially local pubs, for the likes of elderly people who has probably been cooling on their own. They haven't seen people, their family, their friends in a long, long time. And a lot of elderly people like to go to the pub just to have a couple of pints at night time and go home. They've worked all their life, and this is what they live for, is their couple of pints at night time, and I see no harm in it.
OK, thank you very much indeed, Anne-Marie. Now, Jamie, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Jamie?
Yeah, not too bad.
Now, Jamie, you actually work in the pub trade.
I do, yeah.
Are these proposals workable?
Yeah, I think they are. Like, everyone seems to be in their own head imagining like the likes of Temple Bar or busy pubs like Coppers or something like that. But for a local pub in a village or somewhere along them lines, it will be doable. Like.
So, okay, you don't believe that it would be, or do you not believe it would be doable for, say, the big pubs in the city centre?
Well, it would be a lot harder to manage with, like, obviously a bigger capacity. But when it comes to local pubs, like, I just going on the comments on your Facebook page, like people saying you're going to, after a few pints, people will be falling over each other and hugging and all that. Like, I don't know what local pubs they're in, but it doesn't happen in every pub.
No, of course not. No, and it does strike me that. Busy pubs in tourist areas like Temple Bar, or you go to places like Killarney or whatever, where they might be packed with tourists. This year, they're not going to be packed with tourists, so it might be a very different environment altogether.
No, it will be different, but there's like what they were saying is opening cafes and restaurants before pubs, and most pubs now do food, so they're known as gastro pubs or something like along them lines. So where are they going to draw the line on that? For it'll be hard on pubs that just sell drink and no food, as opposed to the gastro pub.
Yes, yeah.
So like there'll be plenty of different businesses pushing the limits and pushing boundaries to get things back up and running, and it's nothing to do with being greedy or money. It's just trying to get the business back up and running and get things back to normal.
Okay, so in the bar that you work in, with these proposals that you would have table service only, there'll be no stools at the bar, you have to sit at a table and you get served at the table, a maximum of 6 people at a table. In the bar that you work in, would that be doable?
Yeah, like it's not a bar in the city centre, like, so most people just come for a couple of pints after work, or it'd be rare for a group of 6 people to go into the local pub, like, do you know what I mean? 2, 3 at the most, a few of the lads, but again, it's not big gatherings or anything like that, so it's definitely doable.
Right, okay, so
it's up to the staff for if they're half decent workers, there'd be no problem with the table service either, like.
Now, one of the worries, obviously, is, when people have a few drinks on board, then they start letting their guard down and social distancing could go out the window.
Well, yeah, there's every publican has a duty of care, like, and I think with the pubs being closed for so long, these are the guidelines. You either like it or lump it, and if you don't like it, go home and have your exams at home and watch the TV.
Okay, so but you believe for where you work that this is doable and your premises could reopen safely?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
All right, Jamie, thanks very much indeed. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. This is from Trish.
Hi, my name is Trish. I'm just commenting on the conversations about the pubs reopening. My concern is the toilet facilities. I think it is impossible to make this work because you very often have to queue. We're encouraged to hand wash for longer periods, more regularly, and I think that will be impossible if we're trying to social distance in the public facilities in most bars and pubs in this country. So I think that's going to be the greatest challenge, and I don't hear anybody making any provision for this. Thank you guys, love the show, wonderful. Take care, bye.
Thank you very much indeed, Trish. Now, Michael, also a barman, is that right, Michael?
Yeah, that's right. How are you?
You've heard the list of proposals that the vintners are putting forward to the government. They want to be allowed to open at the same time as the restaurants, which was proposed for the end of June. Will it be doable, do you think?
I think it's not going to work. Impossible. Just what Trish was saying there. See about the toilet situation. Like, even before all this came in, I'm like a clean freak. Like, if you're washing your hands when you walk out of the toilet, you put your hands on the door. Who's to say that person hasn't washed their hands before you've walked out of that toilet? So who's going to check on all this? Like,
in fact, only just a couple of days before the lockdown, we were actually out for dinner in a restaurant, and in this particular place there is communal toilets, so it's men and women together, and one guy walked out of the cubicle without washing his hands and was attacked by a woman for not washing his hands. The point being
this is just what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So you're going to be asked to sanitize your hands walking in the front door. But yeah, so who's going to check in the toilets? So that's going to be more staff on the front door, on the toilets. Then you've less customers
making people wash their hands, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to have less customers in with the table situation, no standing. You're going to have less staff working. So to me, it just seems mad. I just can't see it working.
You can't see it working. Okay, so
No.
this idea of having no live music or DJs and
that's another thing as well, because I know a lot of musicians as well, like, and that's affecting them like big time. They've nothing. Like,
Yeah. But is it not? Whatever about the place that you work in, would it not work in the premises you work in?
But see, I've worked in different types of premises. There's premises where I've worked with, there's load tables. There's premises where it's so narrow, it's impossible unless people are standing in it. It's impossible. But the premises with tables, as I was saying to someone, like for example on, say, Valentine's, we had to separate the tables, because it's two people per table.
Yes.
So how are you going to separate every group of 6 per table? They're not going to be all together. Do you get me?
In terms of what do you mean?
They're not all going to they're not all going to walk in together. So you're going to be mixing people, and it just doesn't make sense.
So then I worry, Michael, listening to you. Can we ever reopen the pubs then?
Well, this is the thing. I'm talking about big premises where I've worked, but then there's also local pubs. Like, if I want to go down to my local and sit like in my local, if you go down my local on a bingo night, you're going to have all the women sitting in 10 to maybe 15 in a group of tables. But you'd class that as one table. They're only like little tiny tables. So,
okay. So what I'm hearing from you is
if the guards walked in on a night like that and say, right, that's it, like, come here, there's more than 6 at that table. Do you get me? Like, it's going to be 2 different rules for big premises and little premises.
Okay, so for small local pubs and perhaps pubs that serve food and stuff like that, you think this could be workable?
Well, all the local pubs don't serve food.
No, I know they don't. And
it's going to be pubs that now have restaurants over their premises now, which a lot of them are. A lot of them do serve. They have to, technically have a restaurant over. But like all the local pubs don't have that. So what's going to happen then? And a lot of them premises are with leases. They're not owned.
Okay, so you think the toilets could be a major issue, although you could say 3 in and 3 out. The way they do at the front door of the supermarkets now, they only let you in, but like you said, that means
this is not a supermarket. You're talking about people who want to go in and have like a few drinks, and some people can sit over the drink for an hour. Some people can have about 4 or 5 pints an hour.
Yeah, okay. But stay there for 1 second. He doesn't think this is workable at all. Again, Michael, do you see a day where we will be able to safely open the pubs?
Unless everything's just finished and the whole coronavirus and everything's just gone back to, like, it's all forgotten and done with, which I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay, but if we have to maintain this social distancing for the foreseeable future...
I don't see it working if we have to. I don't see it working.
Right, you don't see it working in pubs?
No.
All right. Stay there for 1 second. Melanie, I'm going to talk to you straight after the break. You also think this is a bad idea?
I do, for sure, yeah. I think it's going to cause more problems than anything else.
Okay, well, stay there for 1 second. I'll come back to you straight after the ad break. I'd like to hear from you on 6797 981. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. The 2 publican bodies here in Ireland have put forward proposals and have asked for a meeting with government this week as to how pubs could reopen earlier, and we're talking about the end of June rather than later into August, which was originally proposed. In their proposals, they say nobody would be allowed to sit, stand or order at the bar. There will be table service only, so you have to sit at your table. Numbers on the premises will be confined to no more than 4 per every 10 square metres, and a maximum of 6 people will be permitted at any one table. Customers will be expected to use hand sanitizer before entering the pub. Staff will be asked to maintain a safe distance from customers when taking orders and to wash their hands thoroughly every 30 minutes. There may be limits on how many can use the toilets, and then there will be no live music or DJs, and the Gardaí or the HSE will have the power to close any business flouting the guidelines. Is that workable? Would that bring you back to the pub? We'll take a quick break. We're back in a second.
The sound of the city, from Drumcondra to Dorky. This is 98FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
It's Tuesday morning and we're in the middle of a conversation. It's an Irish thing, it has to be said, about the pubs and whether or not pubs should be allowed to reopen a bit earlier than was originally talked about. Originally, the Taoiseach last week was talking about August for the pubs reopening, but restaurants and cafes being allowed to open in June. Well, the publicans have said this is desperately unfair, and they have put forward a load of proposals to enable them to reopen, including the table service only, a limit on the amount of people actually in the premises, and so on. Melanie, why do you think it's not a good idea?
Morning, Adrian. I think it's just not going to work, especially now from where I am. Okay, we have 5 pubs in the town here. They're all very small.
Okay.
So it's not going to be feasible in that way. But I just think it's like that gentleman was saying there, you know, you have the issue with toilets, you have the issue with not having enough staff. You know, they're going to have to get more staff in. That's going to cost more on the public and everything else. And then you also have the issue of if you're going up and you're getting a pint. So you're going to get a glass, or you're going to get a plastic cup, or what way is that going to work? So, you know, you never think of these things before.
No, actually, I haven't even thought of... Well, glasses, in theory, have been cleaned before you get them, so...
Yeah, well, that's what you're hoping, anyhow, that they're cleaned properly. Do you know what I mean? No, I think it's best to wait and leave it until it's, you know, it's safer to do so and that it's more free flow. And I mean, I think it's not a good idea not to have music, but equally, you can go down and have a good night in the pub without music. It depends on the company you're in and everything else.
Of course, yeah.
You know.
But so you would much rather we leave the reopening of the pubs until what? Social distancing is no longer a thing?
Well, not so much that now, you know, but that it might be a little more relaxed. And like, I mean, if any of my friends are listening, they'll think I'm mad because I love going out to the pub and whatever else, but it's just, you have to think of people's safety as well and everything else. And in fairness to the publicans, like, there's a lot of people giving out about them, but they're like every other business in Ireland. They need to get up and running again, and they need to do it soon, because a lot of them are not going to survive it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
But if they're being proactive and coming up with proposals about how they think, and by the way, this wouldn't apply to every pub. Every pub's not going to reopen with these conditions, because for some it just wouldn't be feasible to limit the amount of people and all of that. But for those who want to and believe that they can bring in those measures effectively, should they not be allowed to open?
Well, I think, okay, fair enough. They could give it a go, but I mean, it has to be a thing that it's going to be monitored and to see, like, is it going to work? I mean, you're going to have an issue where, we'll say, if I'm going down to town tonight and I go to the pub and they're like, well, sorry, there's no seats left, I can't let you in, like. So some people are like, yeah, that's grand, but then you're going to have other people that might start causing trouble or whatever else. You know, it's messy, but like I said, I think it's with anything now. With the bigger shops open and everything else, I think it's something that needs to be tried out at least.
And like we said, this wouldn't apply to all pubs. Some pubs just wouldn't bother opening with these conditions, but others firmly. And I saw a report on the television news last night. A place out in Howth was interviewed on it, and their premises looks very well spaced out and looks like it could very easily open again.
Yes, yeah. It's just, I suppose, people, have to be more mindful, and I think we are now anyhow. We're not
in terms of our social distancing and all of that. Yeah, we are. Very much so, yeah.
And hygiene and everything else, So, look, hopefully it'll work well for them if it goes ahead, but we just have to mind each other and follow the procedure, I suppose.
Absolutely. All right, Melanie, thank you very much indeed. Eric, you feel very strongly about this. No way should the pubs reopen early.
Yeah, I think it's very concerning that people... The death numbers, the numbers of people dying are higher than they were when we closed the pubs. They're higher than they were when we closed the creches. Mm-hmm. We haven't got a plan for opening creches. I think it's a bit shameful. I think we all have to look at our moral values. Right now, currently at this moment, there's a huge amount of people unemployed. Basically, I'm not going to use the word sponging, but being supported by the government. Mm-hmm. Publicans can't be standing there and saying, let's get everyone back in the pub so they can drink that money. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong, just on a basic level.
Okay, but publicans, as was said a second ago, need to reopen their businesses, as every business needs to reopen sooner rather than later. And, I mean, you can't blame them for wanting to reopen their businesses.
Absolutely not. I completely understand that. But don't forget, Jeremy, I don't forget that the pubs were open until the very last, were forced to close. They had to be forced to close. There wasn't one pub that stood up tall. Not one pub stood up and said, well, I'm going to look after my customers. There's a health issue here and I'm not having them gather here. How many pubs stood up and can hold their hands up and say they've done that?
I know, but that was a different time, and what I mean by that is that was before we realised the implications of all of this. I mean, I was in a pub in Kenmare in County Kerry on the 7th of March, and it was like sardines in a sardine can. It really was. It was absolutely wedged. The thought of anywhere allowing that to happen now is just, it just wouldn't be contemplated. Do you know what I mean?
No.
In that our whole mind space has changed now.
Absolutely. So we do have a different world. But can we just take a step back and look at some places that have opened up? We've got German football, right? 1,800 tests done. All the clubs in the German league, and there's 10 cases of positive cases of coronavirus.
Yes.
Now, some of those players are absolutely fuming that they've been expected to work and bring it back to their family now. Some external family members have been infected as a result of this. So you're talking about a football team who plays in open air with doctors all around, and their toilets are a hell of a lot cleaner than pubs, and they're still getting infected. You cannot. There's no place on the planet that has a clear, open process to get this back going.
Okay, so in terms of, the proposals from publicans for table service only, a limit on the amount of customers, all sitting at tables, not standing at the bar, none of that.
Okay, I would think a gastro pub is maybe one of the first pubs that could open.
Yes.
A gastro, yes. Maybe with a curfew. Only opening with eating hours, closing at 7 or 8 o'clock, starting off. Maybe there's some places that can do that.
Sorry, I'm losing you there, Eric. Your line is dropping there.
Sorry, I'll go into a bad spot. I think we need a better focus. I think we need... Is that the focus? Is that what we're going to focus on?
In terms of, this is what we want to open?
Yeah, the pubs being open, it's such a hard plan to put together with such high risk. Isn't there more important aspects of society that we should focus on? Especially the creches, for example. We have to have some kind of moral compass here in a time where we've got world leaders like Trump asking people to inject disinfectant.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Eric, thanks very much indeed. Let me have a listen to this WhatsApp voice note from Gavin.
Adrian, I've no problem with the pubs opening next week. I mean, no problem at all, because no one's going to go. You can open a pub all you want, but you rely on old people to go to the pub in the morning, so that's that business out the window. They will fall asunder if they open too early, but let them.
I'd like to find out how you feel about it. Would you visit the pub? Actually, in fact, let's do a Dublin Talks text poll. and let's do it now. And I want you to imagine in June that pubs were allowed to reopen. And these are the conditions. Nobody would be allowed to sit, stand or order at the bar. There would be table service only with a maximum of 6 people per table. And the numbers on the premises will be confined to no more than 4 per every 10 square metres of the pub. So depending on the size would depend on how many people are allowed in the door. There'll be limits on how many can use the toilets at any one time. And customers will be expected to use hand sanitizer before entering. And finally, there will be no live music or DJs, and the Gardaí or the HSE will have the power to close any business flouting the guidelines. Now, the question that I want to ask is, if pubs reopened with those conditions, would you go to the pub? Just simply text me yes or no to 0877 98 98 98, because that message there says that people just won't go. You can open them all you like, but people aren't going to go. So I want to find out from you, would you go if the pubs were reopened with those very strict conditions? Text the word yes or no to 0877 98 98 98. Steph sent me this WhatsApp voice note.
Hi, Adrian. Oh my God, I'd actually love for the pubs to open. I miss the pub more than I actually miss some of my family and friends. I don't know how it would work with the social distance, though, realistically, because with alcohol intake comes kind of lack of judgment. I think the social distancing would be hard, so unless they limited it to a certain amount of pints, don't know how it would work, but I would absolutely adore them to open.
All right, now Lorraine, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Now, you don't want to see the pubs reopening at all?
No, it's absolutely ridiculous how we're looking for them to be open so soon. I mean, we don't know what's down the road. I mean, we have to just gradually and slowly open the country back up again. And I understand that, you know, the pubs, they need to open, there's people's jobs and whatever. But I mean, people's safety comes first. And there's no way that they can open a pub safely. I mean, people have already said it that have been on before me about social distancing. People get a few drinks, they're hugging each other. And then the other half is they might be killing each other at the end of it. There's no way of people washing their hands. You know what they're like when they have a few drinks. They go in there the toilet so quickly. There's no way they wash their hands. Then you have the other thing is dirty glasses. I mean, how many times have you sent back a dirty glass in a pub? Because I have.
Yeah, no, I have myself, yeah.
You know, and like, you just can't be careful.
But in terms of social distancing, you know, the last couple of weeks, we've all learned about social distancing. We'd never even heard of it before then. And I think we're actually, because in the supermarket over the weekend, people are keeping their distance. In other words, it's been drilled into us now.
I know, Adrian, and you see, this is the problem I have with all of this social distance, right? We queue outside, and I'm very careful because I have underlying health problems, and I have my mask, and I have my gloves, and I've no other choice, but I have to shop as well for the house. And I'm in the queue, and I'm following all the distancing rules. You go into the supermarket and it's a free-for-all. There's people on top of you, climbing on top of you to get a packet of rashers or a box of a box of toilet rolls or whatever else they're getting. Once they're in the supermarket, it's like they forget that you have to social distance. And I was actually in the supermarket the other day, and this man actually said, fair play to you, love, you're the only one in here that's moving in out of the way when people are coming by or looking to get in where I was or whatever.
But aren't a lot of us doing that? That's the point I'm making. That I certainly do. And if I'm walking around the supermarket, I don't come within 2 metres of another person because I just avoid them. And
yeah, well, I'm the one. I do that as well. But I've seen people that once they get out of the queue outside, it's like they can do what they like. You know, I really
okay. So in terms of reopening pubs, you don't think now is the right time at all?
No, it's not. I tell you another thing, Adrian, right? They can open restaurants and cafes because they can police that. People aren't going to sit in a bar, are going to sit in a bar all night. They're not going to sit in a restaurant for the night.
Okay, well, what about a pub that serves food?
Well, that's what I'm saying, like a pub who serves food, they can sit there for the night in a pub once it's serving drinks. But I mean, in a restaurant, you're not going to sit in a restaurant for the whole night. You order your food, you have your drink, and then you leave. That's how they're able to open
so
cafes and restaurants.
you're happy enough with restaurants reopening,
with social distancing.
With social distancing,
You're not going to sit in the restaurant for the whole night. Those tables are reserved. You know yourself, you book a table and they say, well, we need the table back by 9 o'clock because we have another booking. That's how that can work. But you can't do that in a pub. Plus, hairdressers and nail bars, they're not opening, and they're the safest places to go because you get your nails done. The girl doing your nails is wearing gloves and she's wearing a face mask as well, and there's only you and her.
All right, stay there for 1 second. 6797 981 is our telephone number. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. I have to say, after all this talk, I am shocked by the results of our poll. I'll bring you the results of that straight after the break. Don't go away. It's 11 o'clock across Dublin. Good morning. This is Adrian Kennedy. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. And this is Emma with Tuesday's top headlines.
Thanks, Adrian. Good morning. Some minor coronavirus restrictions are being eased today. Those cocooning can go out for brief exercise, while the 2-kilometre exercise distance is being extended to 5. A man in his 20s is due in court this morning in relation to an attempted murder of a woman in Meath last year. It relates to a fire at a premises in Kells on September 19th. Aer Lingus says it's reviewing its procedures after pictures showed its Belfast to Heathrow flight yesterday morning was almost full. One passenger estimated about 95% of seats were taken, making social distancing impossible. And the Bray Air Display has been cancelled for 2020. It was hoped Ireland's biggest air show could have been moved from July to September to avoid the ban on mass gatherings. However, it's been confirmed the 2-day event will not go ahead this year. And now you're up to date on 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Call 6797 981.
And this is Adrian Kennedy with you until midday today. Adrian, why is nobody mentioning the cost of all this closure? Ask these people, are they going to be happy to pay the bill for all these pubs to be closed indefinitely? Everyone is being a genius here. And I did say earlier on that we have to understand how publicans want and need to reopen their businesses, and they're merely putting forward proposals about how that might be possible to do. Where am I going now? John, you're on 98 FM. How are you, John?
How are you doing, Adrian?
Good, thanks, John. What did you want to say on this?
I just think it's very selfish and careless of listening to some of the people that actually want the pubs open. I, for one, literally, I'd have been for opening them if things hadn't have been where they were, if, say, the death tolls were less or such as things like that. But the way it's gone now, the trend has been nearly the same day in, day out.
Well, no, it is lessening. It definitely is
lessening now, yeah.
I know from the figures yesterday, 266 new cases and 16 more deaths, but that is going the right way, if you like, in terms of the figures that have been coming out day after day. But I take your point. You don't see a situation where we can even contemplate opening the pubs anytime soon?
No, I don't reckon to go back and have a look at phase 5, what they have proposed, and make the decision then. But it's the only logical thing to do. Opening it early is just it's very irresponsible.
Even with the sorts of conditions that the publicans are proposing themselves.
Yeah, Adrian, you know yourself, you've been in bars before when they're busy and they're not busy. Trying to people social distance now the way it is, it's never going to be feasible.
You think people will just ignore the social distancing, do you?
Yeah, I've seen it even in my own local. It's only about 30 lads crammed into a cubicle.
Some local. I'm very interested in the results of our poll, by the way. We were asking you, if the pubs were to reopen in June, would you go? And obviously publicans want to meet the government this week with a view to reopening a bit earlier with all the conditions that they've suggested. But in our poll, we asked you, would you visit? 73% of you said no. 73% of you have said, if the pubs open in June, I won't be going. 27% of you have said you will go, or you would go to your local, but 73% of you in our poll have said no, you will not go to the pub. Making you wonder whether or not it's pointless, pubs even considering opening. Let me bring in one last call, and that's you, Aidan. You also believe, and looking at our poll, 73% said they won't go anyway. You think it will be a massive mistake. Why?
Huge mistake. Just as the gentleman there before me just said, that people have a few drinks. They mean well, they start well, but 3 or 4 pints in, standards are going to slip, and they'll just all be mingling in together and hugging each other, and it wouldn't be sustainable over the night. Social distance, and I've had the virus, and I wouldn't even go to the pub because I think it's crazy. It's
so you've had the virus, you've gotten over it. In theory, you're immune, and you still wouldn't go to the pub.
I just think it's. I'd be uncomfortable to watch it, to be honest with you, to be present. Like the first thing that happened when they closed the schools and then they left the pubs open. And all everybody did was pile to the pub with their kids with them. And the kids were running around. It happened in my local. The kids were running around. It was like a playground. And Irish people cannot be trusted with alcohol. They just can't, unfortunately. And I like the pub. I like a drink. But Irish people and alcohol, it should be the very last thing that's reopened. And I sympathise with them absolutely economically. I appreciate their business. I have my own business as well. But unfortunately, pubs, it's just time and time again, they should be the last thing that are really on the list.
Even if these proposals were put into place of table service only, limiting the amount of people that can actually come in, and all of that, the sorts of conditions that they're putting on themselves, do you not think it's workable? Or for pubs that serve food?
I just really don't. Once alcohol is in the mix, all bets are off. The toilets, everything, people going in it, I just don't think it's workable. I really don't. Come 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, everyone's 7 or 8 drinks in, people that start to no music. Irish people make their own music. We sing, we dance, we make our own atmosphere. We do it everywhere we go, which is fantastic most of the time. But in this instance, it's a disaster. People would be up dancing, hugging each other. It just.
But this is where the publicans have said that they would, that the guards or the HSE would have the right to close a business flouting the guidelines. So, do you know what I mean? If you're in a pub and there's a whole gang and they're up dancing or whatever, you can be guaranteed that somebody's going to call the guards, and the guards arrive and they close the shop down.
That's true. Well, that'd be the best option, obviously, because with the smoking ban, that worked, because once they put the onus and the liability onto the publican, it was policed rigidly because it was money coming out of their pocket and their business. So in that sense, it possibly, it would be policed well. But look, different pubs in different areas, yourself. Some pubs, people that sit there and they're very nice and they'll have their few drinks, go home. But there's some pubs, it's like the Wild West. And I wouldn't like to be a barman going out to people saying, sit down, or you sit over there. It's like school. You're expecting them to be school teachers. It's crowd control.
But aren't we better now in terms of keeping our distance? In that this is our new normal.
Yeah, it's become a mindset, and people in general have been brilliant staying away from each other, and it has become a way of life, and you do get more and more used to it. But I just still think alcohol is the problem, and where alcohol is involved, some people can't stay faithful to their wife when they've had a drink.
Right, okay.
You know what I mean?
Let alone keep their distance from...
Exactly, let alone, you know what I mean? It's just, alcohol, inhibitions go, standards go, everything slips away. People do things when they've had a drink they wouldn't dream of doing when they haven't. That's why once alcohol is the magic ingredient, once that goes in there, all bets are off.
Okay, let me come back to something you said a couple of minutes ago about actually you've had the virus. What was it like?
It wasn't too bad. I was in Madrid. I came back from Madrid. I'm pretty sure I caught it over there. I was feeling a bit lousy. I rang the HSE, but I didn't have shortness of breath or any. I wasn't ticking enough boxes for them, so they told me to get on with it, basically. I had a very bad cough. I couldn't shake the cough. I've never smoked in my life, but it was like a smoker's cough. I was coughing and coughing, so I rang my doctor. He got me down for a test in Croke Park. 2 weeks later, the results came back negative, which surprised me because my wife had been sick as well, and my daughter very mildly sick. And then the HSE rang me last week and said, what was the result of your test? And I said, well, I was negative. I didn't have it. And they said, actually, you did have it. We got your result wrong. So I was in the batch that were sent to Germany.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I was in that batch. So I was told I was negative when I was positive. I kind of knew myself I'd had it, though. I was surprised at the results. So I wasn't shocked when the lady rang me last week and told me that it was pretty lousy dose. I wouldn't say, you wouldn't barely feel it or anything like that. The cough was terrible. I was coughing and coughing for 3-4 hours
and what about your wife?
a day. She lost all sense of taste and smell.
Oh, right.
She lost. So, because I'd read about an Italian footballer and he'd said the same symptom. It wasn't really a symptom at the time. And she said, we're eating tea one night. And she said, I'd made well be eating pedigree chum. She said, I can't taste a thing. And so she lost her taste. And she had a bit of a cough as well. My daughter had a little scratchy cough. But the three of us have had it effectively. Because my wife said to me, you go and get tested. And if you're positive, I'm positive effectively. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how we did it. But we're all grand now, thank God. We're fine and we're through. We're kind of relieved to be over it, to be honest with you. Although, no one knows really the long term or if you can get it again or whatever else. But I'm still being cautious around people, and I still wouldn't call down to my mum. I'm still keeping my distance from her because, like I said, nobody knows really at the moment.
We're still learning about this thing every day.
It's a gamble to take as well. So, I'd still be very safe,
All right. Aidan, thanks very much indeed for talking to us, and the best of luck to you. So, the bottom line is, where it comes to the pubs reopening, 73% of you, I asked, would you visit the pub if it were reopened with the sorts of conditions that they're talking about? And 73% of you said no, you will not visit the pub. Eric sent me this WhatsApp voice note.
Hey, Adrian, just in regards to the pub worker there who's calling in, There's absolutely no chance. Like, Irish pubs are renowned for atmosphere, activity, liveliness. There's no chance in the world. Ask him to name me one pub toilet that is actually clean enough in normal circumstances. Every pub has a queue at the bar. I know they're saying they won't have queues at the bar, but if they can't manage a queue, they're obviously understaffed. There's no chance in the world this could work. We haven't even got a plan to put the creches back in action yet. And we're talking about opening pubs. Irish people need to get a hold of themselves. It's really poor. The lady that was on first, she mentioned that old people would need to get out. They've been locked up inside and they'd want to go out. Is boredom worse than death? That's really what she's saying. Boredom and loneliness is worse than death. No, it's not. Nothing's worse than death. Jesus Christ.
Is he finished talking? Okay. Shane sent me this message.
Hi, Adrian. Shane here. I think the pub should reopen, even under these strict guidelines that I fully agree with. I've no doubt that any group of 6 people that are sitting around the table having a few pints of playing, the crack will be 90. It goes without saying that these guidelines are in place to save us. Some people also might be really struggling with their mental health, being isolated by themselves all the time, and it'd be good for them to get out of the house and see a few faces. And also the young people getting their jobs back. Thanks. This to me is a no-brainer. Thanks.
All right, thanks very much indeed, Shane. Graham.
How are you, lads? Look, if that's the case for the pubs, that's them ruined. 4 people to every square metres. The price of a pint will go through the roof. There's extra staff costs. There's money to be made back from having to make adjustments to the pubs. There's going to be no live music. Sport will be played behind closed doors. RIP to the pubs. Next year, lads.
Okay, Daniel says, how hard up do you need to be to go and have a pint?
Even if the pubs were to open back up, are people that hard up for a pint that they want to risk it? I know I wouldn't want to risk it.
Okay, John is also in favour of them opening.
The pub should be reopened, same as shops, everywhere should be reopened. If you have an underlying health condition, stay at home. Let it run through the general public who won't notice it. Do you reckon 10 times more people have had it than have been tested with no adverse effect? So just open the pubs and let people at it.
All right, Michael feels, finally, the final message from Michael, feels very strongly about this one.
Good morning, Adrian. Look, I'm listening to this fella here, you know what I mean, and I've listened to a couple of more people that's on the show as well, and all this negativity about the pubs opening and all that, There's a lot of pubs out there and there's a lot of people out there, we're talking about older generation, that are in isolation at the moment, mentally that isolation is killing them, and their only bit of freedom is tipping away down there to the pub on a Monday, you know what I mean, or Monday afternoon, and having their 1 or 2 pints and meeting their friends and all that. I think there's more damage being done to them at home than there will be done in the pubs, psychologically anyway. And I don't think they'll have any problem with social distancing. I think those trips out to the pubs are actually keeping them alive. You know, a bit of a routine and meeting people instead of being stuck inside their home, dying psychologically. You know what I mean? There's a lot of these people coming on the radio there, and they're kind of giving out, and this shouldn't be opened and that should be opened. You know, I'm sure it's hell the publicans will do the best job they can. Everybody has to earn a living.
All right, and one final message from Chris.
Hi lads, just a quick thought. Why don't we limit people if we're going to open the pubs to 3 or 4 pints per person, or limit them 2 hours? We'll do them in sessions, so you know the pub's not going to get crowded and people aren't going to get drunk, and maybe that's just an idea.
All right, Chris, thank you very much indeed, and thank you all of you. But as I said, you would be worried if you were in the pub business, because 27% of people say they'd visit, but 73% said they wouldn't visit. There you go. You're listening to 98 FM's Dublin Talks. This is Adrian Kennedy with you until midday today. I'm here, and Jeremy is there.
How are you?
Good, thank you. And we want to pick your brains a little bit. Tell me exactly what we want to talk about.
Well, it was actually a video that went online at the weekend. It went viral, and it was a video of 2 young fellas, millennials. Let's say they were, 18 or 19. And their father set them a challenge to ask them to make a phone call using an old rotary phone. Now, for those of you who don't know what a rotary phone is, a rotary phone was where you had to put your finger in a hole on the phone and go 9, tick, 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 7, tick, 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 5, tick, 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 and you move this big ring around and around to try and make a phone call. And I remember back in the day, we had one of these phones in our house, and to ring relatives in America, it took about an hour and a half to put the phone number into the phone.
It didn't.
Not far off us.
So this video is 17-year-olds hilariously attempt to dial a rotary phone because they've... and in fact, let's just have a listen to a little bit of this, right? So...
Or do you go all the way around back here?
So they're trying to work out, like, what do you do with the dial? Do you bring it all the way around? Anyway, the point being, it took them nearly 4 minutes to work out how to place a phone call with an old-fashioned phone, with a rotary phone. 4 minutes it took them to eventually work it out.
Then it was revealed today that the phone book, which we all grew up with, is no more. So the phone book that was printed last year, which would have been the 2020 phone book, is the last ever phone book that will be in existence in this country. They've said that they're not printing them out anymore, which is very sad, isn't it?
Well, I haven't seen one for years. It's one of those things, you don't need a phone book anymore.
No, why would you need a phone book?
You just Google and you'll...
And in fact, a couple of months ago, we were in my mother's house and I had my young fella there and I was looking for something in her attic and we came across a phone book from 1985 or 86 or something like that. And I showed it to my son and he couldn't grasp it. Because when we look for phone numbers now, he sees me just asking Google. You just go, Google, local Chinese takeaway. No problem, Jeremy. 01 678.
Yeah.
But back in the day, we had to look through a phone book.
So what we want to we want you to share with us is, as we said, last year was the final edition of the phone book. There will be no more phone books. And I know kids today have no idea even what a phone book is.
I mean, that's the way... Back in the day, I don't know, did you ever do this, Adrian, where you met a girl in Wesley or something like that and you didn't get her phone number because we didn't have phones back then, so you'd kiss a girl in Wesley and you'd go home and you'd only have her name and then you'd have to go through the phone book to try and, well, what could the parent's name be? Oh, is it Mr. O'Brien? Could that be your dad? Let's try and ring.
So we want a list of things that kids today will never understand. Call us right now on 6797981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. This is from John.
Phone books are great for lighting the fire.
Phone books are great for lighting the fire.
And they're also good if you have a wonky leg on one of your beds. You put them under the wonky leg. It'll prop up the bed.
So, kids have no idea what a phone book is. Kids have no idea how to use an old-fashioned rotary phone. But we want you to come up with a list for us of things that kids today never understand or will never understand. Call us now on 6797981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98.
The sound of the city from Lucan to Lusk. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
And Jeremy is here with me as well, socially distanced from, he's in a different studio actually. We were talking about the phone book and the fact that 2019 was the last ever phone book. There will be no more. Now, we were talking about young people have no idea what a bloody phone book is anyhow. And that's what we want you to share with us. What other things will the kids of today never understand? And if you try to explain this to them, I'd like that video. It's a hilarious video, actually, of the two 17-year-olds trying to make a phone call on an old-fashioned phone, on a rotary phone. And I love this one. It's just a quote that someone sent in. Do you remember this as a kid? Ma, get off the phone. I need to use the internet. Actually,
that was every day in our house.
Because, and this is something else that kids will never understand, back in the day, you used your phone line to connect to the internet, albeit very, very badly and very slowly, and this is the sound you would have gotten then. Will you hear this now? Oh no, sorry, if I press the right button you might actually hear it. This is the right button here. You remember that, obviously? That is the noise that you used to have to go through in order to connect your computer to the internet. You had to dial up like that. And it was tedious, Jeremy, wasn't it? Oh, he's not there. Oh, sorry, where are you? Oh, there you are. Sorry, there you are.
Yeah, to listen to a song or to download a song online back then, it took about an hour and a half just to download one 3-minute song.
Yeah.
Just think about that for a moment.
That's how slow it was, yeah. Anyway, where are we going? Let's go to line 1. Tony, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Tony?
How's it going, Adrian?
What things will the kids of today never understand?
Well, you actually took one of them already with the internet. The dial-up internet.
The dial-up internet.
It take forever. You download a picture on Google, you might as well go and make a cup of tea and come back and you might get half the picture on the screen still, or half it downloaded.
But I remember at the time, I had my first computer, I think in 1996 at home, yeah? And I remember being amazed at being able to download a picture, which would take an hour, because it was something that we'd never had before.
Or the hard drive would be extremely small. You'd fit like 4 songs on it and it'd be full. Like. And then the other thing was, back then, like back a long time back, my mother or grandmother wasn't able to afford a telephone line or the charges. So if it was an emergency or you had to ring your friend, you had to leg it down to Mrs. Murphy's house. Knock on the door and say, listen, can I use your phone for a minute?
Yeah, and it's so hard to explain in an era now where your mobile phone connects to the Wi-Fi, which is connected to the internet, and away you go. You didn't have to go through any of that dial-up stuff. And what was the other thing you were saying?
Do you remember back in the day when you had the old Blockies, or Nokias, we call them Blockies?
Yeah.
And you used to be able to make your own ringtones, and you thought you were like, you know, a legend because you were able to make a ringtone that sounded like Zombie Nation or something.
Yeah, I actually had Zombie Nation on my phone.
Yeah.
The Zombie Nation ringtone, which was great.
And there used to be companies that would advertise, get your ringtone for €45.
Oh, do you remember that annoying ad? Yeah.
And you'd have to bloody pay.
By the way, Adrian.
No, they weren't 45
Nobody was charging 45 quid for a ringtone.
But they were charging for a ringtone. And
then someone in school got it, everyone wanted to get it.
Yeah, and then it was shared around with everybody. Yeah, no, kids will never understand that. Thank you, Tony. 6797981 is our telephone number. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. We're asking what things the kids of today will never understand. We were talking about the phone book and the fact that 2019 was the last edition of the phone book. Peter, you actually work for a different phone book company.
Yeah, Golden Pages. I work for them.
Right, you work for Golden Pages. Now, I didn't even realise Golden Pages still exists.
Oh, they do, yeah. It's all online now, but we're still going strong, thankfully.
And how do you make money?
It's just through online. It's mainly through online sales now. I work sort of behind the scenes. I don't phone customers or anything like that, but it's still going, you know. It's... Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, so you go on to the Golden Pages website, do you?
Yeah.
Hey, Adrian, I'm on it now.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm looking for a barber in Rathmines. So let me just check now. Look at that. Barber, 169 Rathmines Road. Adams Hairdressing, Bagot Street. Yeah, it's all there.
Very good. Okay, so it's all online now. There's no physical book like there used to be. And it was called the Golden Pages because it was the pages themselves were actually yellow in colour.
Yeah, well, we actually looked after the book Golden Pages and the old Aircom phone book as well.
Oh, right, okay.
They're both gone. The last lot were actually, it was the 2017-2018 edition. And that was the last lot. We did have a campaign in 2018 for any elderly folks back in the summer of 2018, if they ever wanted one.
Mm-hmm.
We could send them out. And we shifted out about over 2,000 copies, which it felt busy at the time, but
it's now gone. And is the website as busy as ever, or...?
It is. From my point of view, it's actually busier now with the whole coronavirus thing, because a lot of companies seem to want to show it. From my point of view, I think it's like they want to show that they're still in business.
All right, very good.
People can go on and Google companies, but I think having it on Golden Pages sort of streamlines things a bit more.
Don't take offence to this, but years ago when I lived at home, I found the Golden Pages great reading for sitting on the toilet. So if you were going into the bathroom for 20 minutes, you'd grab the Golden Pages and just, look at that.
Nice, there you go. Anyway, the Golden Pages is still a thing, and it's all online if you're looking for companies or businesses or whatever. Fair play, Peter. Thanks very much indeed. And no like worries. You said, you're busier than normal. Or certainly as busy.
Yeah, it's always been busy, but we're definitely getting more applications at the moment. I'm working from home now, obviously, with the office being closed. But we're definitely getting more applications now.
All right, fair play. All right, good man, Peter. Thanks very much indeed. Visit the website. They still exist. Karen sent me this WhatsApp. Did I play this already? Hang on.
Things my kids will never know would be a Walkman, a VHS, a Discman, having to record your songs off the radio onto your cassette tape. So you'd have to hit record just as the song came on and hope the DJ wouldn't cut in. And the last thing that you'll never know is life outside of isolation.
Yeah, indeed.
Oh, they actually won't. Sure they won't.
No, they won't. A Walkman. And I should imagine that if you gave a child a cassette tape and a Walkman and asked them to make them work together, would they know how to do it? No.
Well, I gave my young fella there a couple of weeks ago. I found remember the Game Boy DS?
Yes, yeah.
The little portable Game Boy. And I found this in a box somewhere and I gave it to him and he looked at it for 2 minutes and said, "Daddy, the graphics are crap." And just handed it back to me.
Really? He'd be right.
Yeah, no, he is right, yeah.
Where am I going next? Steph, you're on 98 FM. Hiya, Steph.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
We're talking about things that the kids of today just can't get their heads around.
Yeah, well, my first, I'm no longer a cool young parent, was with my son. We were proceeding to unpack boxes a couple of years ago and he found my Walkman and he was asking what it was, and in the box was a tape, so I showed him it. I put it on, let him listen to it, and he said, so basically, Mum, this is old-fashioned YouTube.
Yeah, well, it kind of is. Without the pictures.
Yeah, my feelings were hurt, but he was spot on. But he actually got a great bit of enjoyment out of it, listening to all the old school rave. because he's into all that music himself now, but he got bored pretty quickly.
Right, yeah.
So how do teenagers make a mixtape for each other now? Because that was your way. I know when I was growing up, the way of showing a girl that you were interested in her was you'd make her a mixtape of her favourite songs. What do they do now?
Oh, send them to each other or tag them in something.
Yeah, see, it's not the same. I'm going to tag you in a Spotify playlist.
Yeah, but don't forget, like cassette tapes.
Or you can make an actual playlist on Spotify for someone.
Yeah,
so
you can. Yeah, and you can share it with them then. Cassette tapes though are tedious when you think about it. So say you had songs on one side and you had songs on the other side. It would take you forever just to get to the song you want to play if you had to fast forward and rewind and...
Yeah, but you had mixed CD. In fact, my wife, the first night I met my wife, I was DJing in a club and she came up to me and she says, I love the music you're playing, could you put it on a CD for her? And I made her a mixed CD and that's how we ended up together.
Oh.
So mixed CD we're a thing.
Yeah, not anymore though. Thank you, Steph. Davey sent us this message.
Adrian, the kids today will never understand the hardship of having to get up to change the channel on the television each bloody time. Now they just pick up the remote and that's it. They're too handy.
Yeah, I can remember the telly in our sitting room and it had 6 buttons on it. And the 6 buttons were for the 6 channels that we had. And that was it. So you literally had to hop up out of your seat, walk over to the telly and press button number 1 or button number 5 for changing channels.
Yeah, but there was only 6 channels, so...
And 6 buttons. Our telly had 6 buttons on it. For the 6 channels. And that was it. No more. Sean, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Sean?
Adrian, how are you? Good.
Now, we're talking about things that the kids of today will never understand.
Well, I'm going to kind of flip it. It's what I can't get my head around in terms of my parents. It's when my parents went away on holidays abroad, that there'd be no contacts with their parents, like no WhatsApp or anything. Like
no, nothing.
I find it really hard to imagine, life without communication, if you like, abroad.
Well, I can remember as a kid going to Spain on holidays, yeah, and obviously you wanted to ring Granny and let her know that you were safe. And in Spain, they used to have these big buildings, and you walk into this building and it had millions of phone boxes, and you had to make a phone call, and you had to have loads of change, loads of pesetas ready to throw in because it cost a fortune.
So what's a pesetas?
That's something young people won't understand. Pesetas was the Spanish money before the euro.
Okay.
Yeah, they used to have their own money. We used to have our own money as well. Actually, maybe that's something else kids won't be able to get their heads around. But anyhow, it used to cost a fortune just to make a 2-minute phone call back to Ireland to tell Granny that you'd arrived safely. So there wasn't very many phone calls made. And now we're in an era where you can roam for free when you're in Spain now.
There's like WhatsApp messages from all over the world. It's incredible. It just takes for granted what they're using to be.
But then, John, we had the added problem of you would go on holidays and you would take photographs with your disposable camera and you wouldn't be able to see what the photographs of the holiday were like until about 3 weeks afterwards when they got developed.
As opposed to taking it there and then and looking at it there and then. Thank you, Sean. And deleting it, yeah. Graham sent us this.
A Commodore 64, lads. Kids nowadays will not have the patience. Like, I used to stick Billy the Kid on, started the tape to play when I was on the way to school. And I was lucky when I came home from school that it might be ready for me to play. It took hours, lads.
And when you said, but at the time, it was just the thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was the time spent. Like, if you invited your mates over to play the Commodore 64, they'd arrive and it'd be 45 minutes later before the game loaded.
Tricia, you're on 98 FM. Hiya, Tricia.
Hiya. I was just ringing there when the ladies already had said it, though, about the tapes.
Oh, cassette tape.
The cassette tapes, yeah, with this isolation, all the rest. I was doing a clear out and I found some cassette tapes, and I found some like that I even taped myself. And I have to say, back in 1988, and they're still as good as ever. I have actually still a tape deck, so I was playing it, and like that, albums and stuff like that. But the one thing I remember growing up is that I'd older brother and sisters, and they were forever on the phone. So my dad got a what would you call it, a a phone slot thing put in and you had to pay your money and then press button B.
Oh, he actually got a pay phone?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So like that, like, I'm like, kids these days wouldn't even have a clue, like, what that was about.
A pay phone in the house, yeah.
You had to put in your 4 or 5 pences and then press button B in order for to get through on the phone.
Yeah, that's mad.
I know, yeah. Or even phone boxes, sure, they wouldn't even know that you have to go down the street to make a phone call, like, or anything.
And as well,
like
the problem that people nowadays take for granted, back in the day, in fact, this is only about 15 years old, is a caller ID. Before caller ID, you had no idea who was ringing you until you picked up the phone.
Yeah.
No.
Crazy stuff altogether. But no, that was just my thing. I mean, I'm playing my albums now. Like they're like 30, 40 years old. Some of the albums I have, because I bought a record player and my daughter's looking at them going, what is that like, you know? But it's good to get back to the old ways.
Absolutely. All right, thanks very much indeed, Tricia. Let me have a listen to this WhatsApp from Paul.
Hi lads, remember trying to record a mixtape off the radio? It was a nightmare trying to get rid of the ads and the talking and just get to your favourite songs back in the day.
And DJs used to get into awful trouble back in the day for talking over songs, because when you're trying to record the song off the radio, you have the DJ being really cool talking all over your favourite songs. Very annoying. Anne, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Anne.
Good morning, lads. I hope you're both well. Thank God.
Good. God. We are, thank God, yes. Now,
my highlight of our Sunday night was my mum's sister was a nun in Southampton. And she got us all brushed up around 5:30 on a Sunday evening and bring the three of us into the GPO, to the little kiosk, the phone kiosk, and our 2 ton of our 2 shilling pieces to make a phone call, and she put me in the slot to try and ring my aunt. And we'd be having great fun slinging out the other doors, and we get more clatters off it because it'd be breaking the line. So I'm making a trunk call to your Aunt Carmel, a trunk call. And when we had enough, we'd be brought over to Capolas for an ice cream or a single ever bag.
I know this whole idea of having to make phone calls, and people can't get their heads around. Obviously, we still have phone bills, but
and most chippers as well.
Yeah,
half and half. You could sit down.
That's right.
Chips, and maybe if a few of us together had a price of 2 singles or 2 plates of chips, we repost 2 plates of chips, we'd sit around and the man would leave us there for hours.
Yeah.
We'd be quite happy.
That was back in the day, all right. Thank you, Anne. Let me bring in just a couple more WhatsApps. This is from Brendan.
Hey, lads. Do you remember having to go down to X-Vision to get a video, and then you'd come home and you'd put it into VHS and you'd have to rewind the thing? Take care.
And if I'm not mistaken, didn't some of the companies have a fine if you brought back a videotape that hadn't been rewound?
They warned you. They never fined you. There was a big sticker on the thing that said, "Be kind, rewind." But I don't think they ever fined anybody for it.
And finally, Carmel.
I know, yeah. Guys, definitely a flask with the breakable inside, and you'd slash your bag down on the floor in school, and next of all, crush.
Do you remember them?
What were they?
A flask. That actually had glass in the inside of it, and you could break you could break your flask.
Really?
Yeah.
And did it keep tea warm?
Yeah, very warm. Yeah. Finally, Amy, how are you, Amy?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Amy, where are you calling from? That looks like a very strange phone number.
I'm calling from Slovakia. You've actually had me on before for Good News Friday.
Oh, right. Very good. In Slovakia, of all places. We're talking about things that the kids today just can't get their heads around.
Exactly. And I sent in a picture of an old 20p coin that I have. Oh. Because back in my day, you used to be able to go to the shop with 20p and get a drink, a packet of crisps, something like meanies or banshee bones, a chocolate, and then you'd always ask for the change in penny jellies.
Yeah, I can see it now. Yeah, the old 20p coin. You can't go to the
shop with a $5 now and get it.
No, well, that's very true. A 20p coin, kids just can't get. And in fact, our old money, they probably can't get their heads around as well. All right, thank you very much indeed. And Jeremy, thank you as always. You're listening to 98 FM's Dublin Talks. On the way after the break, new rules come into play today surrounding people who are cocooning, which is basically giving them the okay to go out and have a walk. I can never understand why that wasn't a thing from the get-go of this whole thing. But anyhow, if you are somebody who is cocooning, or maybe you have a family member who is, have you gone for a walk today? And how did it feel? Because for some, it was their very first time getting outside the front door in weeks. Call me right now on 6797 981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. I noticed straight away on my way into work this morning an awful lot more elderly people out walking, which was great to see. If you are one of those people, or if you have a family member who is, what was it like? Call me right now on 6797 981.
The sound of the city, from Donamead to Drimna. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
And I would like to hear from you. If you are somebody who has been cocooning for the last number of weeks, you literally haven't been outside your front door, or maybe a family member. Today, and in fact it emerged over the weekend, that the Cabinet were at odds with the health authorities in terms of the advice that elderly people who have been cocooning can go out for a walk. And I think the politicians, or the Cabinet, overruled what the HSE were advising, and they said no, people can go for a safe distance walk. Now, one such person is Jeremy's mum, and here is a WhatsApp voice note conversation between the two of them a little bit earlier on.
Checking in with you to see how you got on with your break from cocoon today. How did the walk go? I saw loads of people your age walking on my way into work this morning. So how'd you get on?
Hi, Ger. Yeah, it was lovely. It was lovely to get out and be part of civilization again. The walk was lovely. A little bit emotional, I felt. Yeah, a little bit emotional. But fine, I enjoyed it.
Were you running away from people, or did you meet many people on the way? Were you crossing the road?
Hi, no, there was very few people out and about at that time. It was nice. And no, I didn't have to run away from anybody. But everybody that I met was being sensible, keeping their distance. So, yeah, there was no fear involved.
All right, so that's a conversation between Jeremy and his mum, Margaret, earlier on. So she felt a little bit emotional, actually, getting out of the house for the first time in weeks, because she's in that age group where they've been advised to cocoon over the last couple of months now at this stage. Did your mum go out today? Did your dad go out today? Or did you go out today if you haven't been out for ages? Now, I know we did talk about this only a week or two ago, about how some people over the age of 70 have been going out anyhow. And even though they were being advised to stay at home, a lot were going out for walks anyhow. But if you're one of those people who has gone out for your first walk in weeks because that restriction or advice has been lifted somewhat, and now you're being told that it is okay to go out for a walk, regardless of what age you are, as long as you're fit and healthy enough to go out for a walk, that it's okay. Kevin sent us this WhatsApp voice note.
Oh, Adrian's Kev. Yeah, my mother's not too happy about these restrictions being lifted. Reason being is that she's more or less housebound. I've been stuck here for 8 weeks, but she knew that I couldn't offer to take her out in her wheelchair, and now she knows I'm going to, and I'm probably going to insist. So yeah, she's not a happy camper, and there might be a few small arguments along the way in the near future. Anyway, have a good one. Bye.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Kevin. So, Mammy's not happy with the restrictions being lifted. As we said last week on the programme, these were only advisory. It was only advised that you should stay indoors at all times if you're over the age of 70. I've seen people over the age of 70 out quite regularly over the last couple of weeks, either shopping or heading off just for a walk. A lot had been doing it anyhow, but as of today, you are now allowed to go for a walk if you're of that age group that you are cocooning and maybe having dinners delivered to you and everything else. It is it's actually nice to see. And you heard from what Jeremy's mum said in the message there, that she found it a little bit emotional because she hasn't been outside the door in weeks. She hasn't gone for a walk, but did this morning for the first time in weeks. And she actually it really enjoyed it. To be part of society again is what she said in her message. 6797981 is our telephone number. You can also text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. If you've gone out for a walk, or maybe your mum or dad have gone out for a walk, how did it feel? Or maybe they've been ignoring the advisory to stay indoors anyhow, and have been going for walks over the last couple of weeks. Because I know an awful lot have, and I've seen an awful lot. But I noticed on my way to work today, much more elderly people out walking this morning. And it was, in my opinion, I'm not a medical expert, but in my opinion, if you're out in the fresh air and you're going for a walk and you're keeping away from people, I don't see how that could be unsafe at all. But like I said, maybe you're one of those people who hasn't been outside the door for weeks. Bernie, how are you, Bernie?
Good morning, dear. How are you?
Good, thank you, Bernie.
Keeping well, I hope.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Good.
So, Bernie, have you been out?
I haven't been to 12th of March officially, but I had a lot of setbacks for health-wise, but I'm grand. I've been going down to Duns on a Saturday morning from 9 o'clock till 11 is our time.
Right.
Just getting my few messages with all my protection and back home.
And that's all you've done? You haven't gone...
I'd say since March, Adrian, I'd say roughly about 3.5 hours I put on the outside world.
Right, okay. How are you coping with that?
Actually, what was killing me, Jeremy, was the thought, or Adrian, was the thought of, well, you can't go out because you're 70 plus.
Yeah.
The can't was killing me. Like, to know you can open your hall door, and God bless my neighbour across the road, Jackie, you can open your hall door and just walk out your path and go down for, But to tell me at 70 I can't go out, that's what was killing me. I felt we were being scapegoated a lot during it.
In what way?
As in, like, were we the cause of the pandemic, the elderly? We weren't.
Right, okay, so you think you've been...
Scapegoated, yeah. Because I'm 71, but I'd be healthy enough to know to carry out what they put out there as rules.
Right, okay.
And I felt kind of...
so you feel you didn't need to be told?
I didn't need to be told, no, and I thought it was very wrong, and I think an awful lot of people, if they speak their mind, will think the same.
Yeah, no, and I know, talking to somebody else over the weekend who's over 70, found it extraordinarily patronising to be telling people of a certain age not to go outside their houses.
I had to make a visit, Adrian, to the A&E because I get the palpitations and I got a bit panicked, to quite honest. I got a taxi down, in and out of the A&E in an hour, and I just said to the doctor before I left, do you think it could be kept like this? From that end of things, there was no one allowed in, only me. I was triaged out in the yard, sent on into the A&E, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z done, and back out in under an hour. It was terrific.
That's unbelievable, yeah.
And everything is mapped out, so if people are afraid to go into these places, tell them not to be.
All right. So you're going to get out for a walk today?
Oh, sometime today, of course.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Delighted to hear that, Bernie. All right, stay safe. Thanks very much indeed. 6797981 is our telephone number. We're talking about the fact that one of the restrictions on our movement was lifted today, and that is, well, there's two actually. One is elderly people, people over the age of 70. I know people who are 71 don't like to be described as elderly. I know my own dad is in his mid-70s and would hate to be described as elderly. Anyway, we're asking whether you've gone out for a walk, or maybe you had been going out for walks anyhow. Now, the other restriction that has been relaxed a little bit from today is the 2-kilometre rule for your exercise has now been relaxed to 5 kilometres. And in fact, Jean, that's the issue you have here.
Yeah. Well, my query, Adrian, is that obviously the driving has been increased as well from 2 kilometres to 5 kilometres.
Has it?
Well, my understanding from it was that the elderly can go for their walks there for the hour, but they can also take a little drive up to about 5 kilometres.
Oh, well, now Jeremy says that was his understanding. That's not my understanding of it. I thought it was just for exercise, that you can wander 5 kilometres from your house for exercise. Now, maybe I'm the wrong one here, and maybe you are allowed to drive 5 kilometres. I don't know whether that's true or not. There are still checkpoints around.
Yeah, understandably. And my first understanding was it was purely just for the elderly, that they could go for drives as well now. But then on the text underneath, after Leo had made his announcement, it actually kind of said that anybody can go for a drive up to 5 kilometres. So I'm just looking for clarification on this.
Okay, well, here's what it says in one article about this, okay? So, people are still being advised to stay at home except in limited circumstances. Those circumstances are to get essential supplies such as food, blah, 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 blah. From Tuesday, the 2 kilometre zone from your home that is allowable for exercise has been extended to 5 kilometres. Under the regulation, it's an offence for a person to leave his or her place of residence unless the person has a reasonable excuse for doing so. But no, it doesn't say anything about driving in this.
It's very confusing. As I said, on Friday, when Leo made his announcement, there was, I was thinking I could go to my mum and dad's house without feeling guilty about going and then, social distancing in the back garden, having a little chat. So that my mum and dad are about 3.5, 4 kilometres away from my house. And my husband's parents would be around the same, but in a different direction. But they're both in their 80s, mid-80s. And he was hoping that maybe we could drive down to his house to cut the garden for them. But he doesn't drive, which means that I would have to do the driving.
Well, I know it does. It does include attending to people, and I assume that would be included. If you've a reasonable excuse, like I have to go and cut my dad's grass.
Yeah.
I think that would be reasonable.
Well, no, that was just a question that I had. I wasn't sure of the understanding of that exactly, whether
and you live in City West, is that right?
Yeah, and my parents live in Fairhouse and my husband's parents live in Greenhills.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, that's difficult, all right. But it does, it says it is allowable for exercise, and that's been extended to 5 kilometres. Again, this is one of those things that, how enforceable is that? But anyway, Paulina, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Paulina.
Hi, how are you? I'm great.
And what did you want to say?
I'm a healthcare assistant and I look after people who are older.
Okay.
The last few weeks, we were stuck in the house day by day. Everyone was getting depressed and upset, And today, the first time we were allowed to go out, so every single person I went to was like, yes, please go out for a walk. And the mood is just lifted. Such a big difference.
So it meant an awful lot to all of your clients to actually get outside the door for a walk today.
You wouldn't even expect that.
Yeah.
How big of a change it was.
And most of the clients that you're dealing with haven't gone outside the door in weeks, is that right?
No.
Right.
Anyway, not with us, because as a company policy, the advice was not to bring people out, so we weren't allowed to bring them out, even if they asked us to.
Right, okay. And a lot of them didn't anyhow, but today means a lot to them.
Oh, yeah. Today is the best day, I have to say, in the past few weeks. Such a big difference. Had to go into work.
That's great to hear. So it is having an impact. It is making a difference. And
it's a big difference, yeah,
absolutely. All right, very good. Thank you, Paulina. And thank you all of you for your calls. Unfortunately, we are out of time. And we're back again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And if there's anything you'd like to bring up on tomorrow's programme, send me an email right now to dublintalks@98fm.com. dublintalks@98fm.com. Send me an email right now if there's anything you'd like to bring up on tomorrow's programme. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10. Barry Dunn is next. And in the next hour, he's got some great music lined up, like these.
Don't you worry, child.